All right, it's about that time when we get into the dailies with my panelists and then get into the topic of conversation. A reminder of what we're discussing this morning: conquering the mountain, the centrality of Mount Kenya in Kenya's politics. The president just this week concluded his tour of Mount Kenya. It appears Azimio is repositioning a certain party represented by one Joseph Shege this morning, and he is the Secretary Social Services Party of National Unity, PNU, led by Peter Munya. We also have in studio this morning, for the first time for me, an MCA who has come all the way from Meru County, and that is Kirinya Mwenda, nominated MCA for youth for the Mbas Party, DEP, Devolution Empowerment Party. Karibu sana kwenye studio. Ascon Kamili, Advice Mundalo, I expect shortly. Ascon Kamili, Youth Policy Analyst, Advice Mundalo Youth Chair, Jubilee Party, and Secretary General, Interparty Youth Forum. All right, so I have had a bit of a challenge, logging on to the e-papers this morning from the Nation Media Group, but I was able to pull up from Twitter the front page of the Daily Nation. I do have my hard copy here for reference, and the headline is this: Education for the Rich. Rich. Clearly, I'm still loading, Joseph. Education for the rich. Some public universities charging more than private. And accompanying this is this caption: the chairperson of Public Universities Vice Chancellor's Body, Professor Daniel Mugendi, says alarm over high fees is misguided, adding some students do not understand the admission letters, but the shock figures have parents and students on edge, uncertain about access to state scholarship under new system. I saw this week published some guidelines on that, on the scholarships by HELB as well as the universities fund. Okay, so some public universities charging more than private. 30 billion shillings allocation in shillings to the Higher Education Loans Board for student loans based on an index. 16 billion shillings amount in shillings set aside for scholarships disbursed through the university's fund. 4,000 number of students who had applied for assistance by Wednesday out of 140,107. All right, also sharing the front page is this story: Azimio ignites fresh row with claims of bias in fertilizer supply. And National Assembly Minority Leader Opio Wandai alleges a state-sanctioned scheme to deny farmers in Nyanza access to the low-cost fertilizer ahead of the short rains season. The government has further reduced the price of a 50-kilogram bag to 2,500 shillings from 3,500 shillings to boost food production. So let me just take that again. The National Assembly Minority Leader Opio Wandai alleges a state-sanctioned scheme to deny farmers in Nyanza access to the low-cost fertilizer ahead of the short rain season. Also on the front page, this story on nominated Senator Gloria Oroba. The nominated senator faces lengthy suspension from the Senate following serious allegations against a parliamentary official that were, however, dismissed. More taxes. Property owners in 6 counties face higher land rates. Treasury approves a plan by the Lands Ministry to increase land rates in Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru, Kisumu, Eldoret, and Kiambu in a bid to raise 8 billion shillings. Final note: veteran Congolese singer dies. Kalenge Nzazi, a.k.a. Vivi, the composer of Les Mangelepa's hit song Embakasi, died on Wednesday in Nairobi. Okay, and at the very top, speaking of the music scene, 50 years of hip-hop from New York to Nairobi, Kalamashaka, and the rise of Kenya's pop culture. All right, let's take a look now at the Business Daily. And here we go. Banks strike high-profile borrowers in default panic. This one penned by Dominic Omondi. Banks are aggressively going after high-profile clients, including giant corporations and prominent prominent billionaires, amid a fresh wave of corporate defaults that are leaving lenders with a pile of bad loans. EcoBank is the latest to tap the services of auctioneers as it moves to sell properties belonging to Kenyan oil marketer Hashi Energy in Nairobi, Nakuru, Kisumu, Eldoret, and Mombasa counties to recover a 5 billion shilling debt. A number of other banks, including KCB Equity Group and Absa Bank Kenya, have moved to court seeking orders to seize assets of defaulters, reflecting a tough business environment where economic activities have been largely muted. So there we go. Let us take a look at what else is on the front page here. I see carrier seeks 1.8 billion shillings from Naivas supermarket stake sale. The KRA is seeking 1.79 billion shillings in taxes from Naivas, reportedly accruing from the 31.5% stake sale in the top supermarket chain in 2020. The taxman has accused the retailer of structuring the deal in Mauritius to avoid taxes in Kenya, which prompted it to move to the tax tribunal. And more details contained therein on the ticker. CBK props up funding for banks hit by liquidity shortfalls. The banking sector regulator has set a new cap to guide how banks lend to one another to soften the pain for small ones caught up by liquidity shortfalls. The new interest rate corridor allows central bank to kill two birds with one stone, as the change also marks the start of inflation targeting part of monetary policy operations. Okay, registrar declines release of IPPS data. The Director General of Business Registration Service has declined to divulge personal information of owners of independent power producers, publicly citing breach of Data Protection Act. And plantation firms are richer picking on weaker shilling. Listed plantation firms are eyeing a boost in earnings this year on exchange gains on hard currency payments they receive from overseas buyers of their produce. Okay, and at the very top highlighted, Jaindi Kisero, to save Mumias, the government should come up with a formula for dispersing the small creditors and sending them home. And I believe when I flipped through my hard copy here, I did see an image of one Michael Joseph, an interview. Julian Zaboko did an interview with him, and he is the founding Safaricom CEO, and he explains why he felt restrained sitting on the board much longer. And he's quoted here as saying, "If I am a CEO, I don't want the founder." Let's see, there we go. "If I am a CEO, I do not want the founder CEO looking over my shoulder all the time, especially with my kind of personality as a maverick." So there we go. That is contained. That is page 3 of the Business Daily. So yes, get your hands on that. Okay, let's take a look now. Let me see if the Taifa Leo front page has been shared with me. And we can cross over to that. No, I beg your pardon. I will have to rely on my hard copy, and then we can take a look at the Standard and the Star and the People Daily e-papers. Okay, here we go. Raila atafutiwa mfupa. Jopo upande wa serikali umesema utayapa umuhimu masuala yasiyohitaji katiba kurekebishwa. Baadhi ya mapendekezo yatahitaji kura ya maamuzi. And so there we go. An image of Raila Odinga. Raila atafutiwa mfupa is the headline. Kenya Kwanza yataka kiongozi rasmi wa upinzani pia awe mbunge ili aweze kusukuma agenda zake bungeni. So Office of the Leader of Official Opposition. Yeah, front page of the Taifa Leo there. Let's now take a look at the Standard. And here we go, front page, the making of a rogue police boss. And I'll be seeking my panelists' thoughts on this one. Japhet Kome is accused of insensitivity after claiming the opposition hired corpses to make it appear police had killed protesters. However, the Inspector General is under fire from Azimio, the bereaved civil society, and morticians. The making of a rogue police boss. And also on the front page of the Standard, Western still holding out for jobs promise in government. Cost of living crisis escalates on dollar woes. And further down, we see Granny Kin quizzed on puzzling death. 8 people, including 3 relatives of the 84-year-old found dead in her compound, were questioned by DCI as probe continues on what police say is possible murder. Court bursts man's hopes in condom case. He claimed the tools of trade tore while in the act, but judge said since he was cheating on his wife, his account couldn't be believed, thus no compensation. Page 3 of the Standard for more detail. Okay, the Star now. All right, as that loads, let us take a look at the People Daily. And their headline reads, scrolling further down, public workers get higher pay. Salaries reviewed, teachers among biggest beneficiaries as SRC announces new remuneration structure. President and deputy left out, pressure to rise for private sector employers, and how different agencies will share out salaries cash. Just zooming in a little closer, executive state officers, 126 million, 78 million. Parliament state officers, 305 judiciary state officers, 4 billion county governments, 408 million county state officers, 745 million other public officers. 21 billion is the total budget distribution, with the teaching service getting 9 billion, 9.5, 9.6 thereabout, 1.8 billion for the civil service, 4.5 billion for uniformed and disciplined forces. A quote here of the SRC chairperson, and that is Lynn Mengich, quoted as saying, public service productivity is a transformative agenda that will enable government to drive and align the entire public service towards economic growth, high and sustained revenue growth, which will reduce the wage bill to revenue ratio, improve service delivery, competitiveness, and employment creation. So that is the front page of the People Daily. At the very top here, talks team in fresh start to set agenda Monday. And questions over City MCA with 200 million shillings. Peter Imwa talk there on page 6. We'll get some details shortly, but let's take a look at the Star now. Should be up and loaded. Here we go. And this is the front page of the Star, just loading there. It reads how SRC gave MPs bigger pay than Ruto. Lawmakers to take home approximately 1.7 million shillings and could stretch to 1.9 million shillings for some members. Pay package for an ordinary MP or senator monthly salary, 725,502. Committee sitting allowances, 120,000. Car maintenance allowance, 356,525. Mileage claim, 462,887. So that's how it comes to about 1.6 and could go up to, beg your pardon, actually rounding off about 1.7 billion and could stretch to about 1.9 million shillings for some members. Also here, Founding Fathers KCC statue given a makeover. Kenyans win 71 million shillings for ChatGPT in healthcare. Kenyans planning to use ChatGPT to improve education and healthcare in the country have won up to 71 million shillings from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to roll out their plans. 5 Kenyan startups will each receive up to 14.4 million shillings, the foundation said in a statement. And the startups responded to the recent grand challenges request for proposals and are part of nearly 50 grant recipients from developing countries who will be awarded. Another 47 days in remand for Cult leader Mackenzie. At the very top here, Siasa pages why Ruto's game plan puts Azimio One Kenya coalition on the edge. The Star today feels heftier than usual. I don't know what your assessment is, gentlemen. And could be on account of the Siasa pullout, 16-page political pullout. Why Ruto's game plan puts Azimio One Kenya coalition on the edge. So here is the pullout. That's what it looks like. Okay, so I will welcome Advice Mundala Askan Kamili to a studio this morning. We'll look at a couple of these stories, including that on the front page of, which one was it? The Standard, I believe, the making of a rogue police boss. And then on salaries, maybe we'll look at that scorecard quickly, just comment on the scorecard where parliamentarians are concerned, released by Mzalendo Trust. But let's start with the front page of the Standard. We'll also look at Taifa Leo. It tells us Raila atafutiwa mfupa. Yep. There we go. So why don't we start with this, and then we'll do the Raila one last, because then get into the topic of conversation, as it is political. Is this political? What did you guys make of the sentiments of the Inspector General of Police that Azimio are hiring bodies? Joseph.
Olive, thank you for having me on the show this morning. I received greetings from the people of Gigil. Around Kikope, they told me if you pass around, they will have nyama choma for you.
Oh, okay.
So
I'll hold them to it.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the statement by the Inspector of Police is reckless and insensitive, saying that the Azimio guys were taking, they were hiring bodies from the mortuary. We have a lady in Nyalenda, I think Evelyn Ochunga or something, an inconsolable mother who lost two boys, I mean two young men, one William, 24, and another guy, his son, 22 years old. He should empathize with the people who lost their loved ones. And I think Inspector General of Police is among the people the president was referring to when he said that he has some clueless and incompetent people that he appointed in his administration. Because you can't make such reckless remarks on the people who have suffered the brutality. You don't know what it means when a parent is grieving for losing his two sons who are already adults because of that violence and because of being gunned down by the police. And then you make such insensitive remarks as Inspector General of Police. In fact, he should have just shut up instead of making such remarks.
All right. Although I believe when the president was speaking, he was making reference to the CSS, the PSS. Ideally, this is an independent office holder. Ideally. Ascon Kamili, your thoughts?
Good morning.
And Karibu.
Nashukuru sana. Thank you very much. And I maybe just want to agree with my brother here in parts that the statement by the Inspector General of Police was a bit unfortunate, considering that actually we all know that there are people who were shot by the police. We don't understand the circumstances around which they were shot, but it is actually true that there are people who lost their lives to the demonstrations where they had an engagement with the police. So it is important that while we exercise that level of authority, we also have to be empathetic, and we also have to have the people in our mind. The police cannot work without the people, and the people cannot live without the police. So there need to be that symbiotic relationship between these two. We don't expect that the Inspector General of Police would come out and dismiss the people entirely without hearing from them. And we don't expect the people to wake up and dismiss the entire police service, because they actually need each other. So it's important that the Inspector General of Police comes down and hears the cries of the people and understand really if there are spaces where the police might have overstepped their authority, then that should be taken into account. Little wonder we have the Independent Policing Oversight Authority that is supposed to take care of such kind of cases. So then it would be, a misunderstanding of some sort if it appears that the Inspector General of Police does not respect the place of the IPOA in all this process, because it was actually anticipated that there would be rogue police officers who would overstep their space and act without considering the fact that they are dealing with the common mwananchi. So the Inspector General of Police, I think, should take this matter more seriously. The beautiful thing is that our Constitution actually, and the effective legislations that give power to what the Constitution says, actually put all the responsibility in the hands of the Inspector General of Police. Whatever he says, he takes full responsibility. Whatever commands he issues to the file and rank of the police, he takes full responsibility. Therefore, the buck stops with him, and he needs to understand that it is more important that we engage the people and understand where they're coming from. The few who might have felt the weight of, overzealous police officers need to be talked to back to normalcy, because when somebody loses their child in such an engagement with the police, it never goes away very easily. So it's important that the police have that wing where they're a bit empathetic to the public and then they listen to the public.
All right. Advice and Kirinya. I want us to take a break, then come back with this, right? Because sitaki kuharakisha, unaelewa advice, you must be accustomed to this by now. But you had mentioned ask on IPOA, and ideally IPOA is the one that should provide this clarity. I asked them this question on Twitter. Perhaps I'm too small fish on Twitter. But now that I am on national television, I am asking IPOA, can you please clarify? Because by law, the police are required to report to IPOA where there has been discharge of a firearm and the circumstances thereof. We take a break. We come back with the thoughts of One Advice Mundalo and the nominated youth MCA from Meru County. Sijui kama utatuma pia salam?
It's quite important.
Sawa, sawa. On the other side of this break. Like, okay, yes, thank you. Okay. Nodding vigorously. Good to see you. Advice Olympic.
Definitely.
Always.
How come? No, but no. Why would you
advice.
refuse me to pick you and you allow advice
That's
to
a
pick you?
lie. I must make me parking down here. And you were also parking when I was coming in. I did. You're good.
Pity. No, my mom never white. My director
Chairman,
must be shedding tears.
I will tell Nani I need the allowance for picking part of the
Niambie nani?
Ambia, anaitwa the producer.
Rosaline lost her sister, imagine.
Oh, she's not in?
No. She's been around for like 2-3 weeks. She was sick, and then this week Nikona me post kwa Twitter kisama her sister passed. You know, this is the second sister she's lost, Obala.
Producer stroke political.
Your colors are. Break your white.
Oh, thank you very much.
Hata umevaa black uka break your white. Mine ni ya Makamba, so colors attract
At
me.
least now that there is no kid here today, so there are not enough adjectives.
Oh, afadhali kidi. Oh my God, yo, Javas Bigambo. Oh, chill. There's one I wrote down, and I had to take a picture before I threw that paper. Just give me a second, I tell you what he told us the other day. On Monday. Alikuwa hapa Monday, sio Mabel? Ilikuwa Monday? Where's my camera? Leo kuna shida ya e-paper, by the way. I don't get it. Pious, materialistic. I can't make this out. But nini nasumbua? Ask her. What is up with Kome? He finally broke his silence, but to shock us. Yeah, I should have just remained mum. All right, welcome back to AM Live. This morning we get the youth perspective, and I did promise advice, Mundalo and Kirinya MCA from Meru, opportunity occasion to comment on this standard headline, the making of a rogue police boss. Advice before I look at some of the statistics that have been independently verified by the independent medical IMLU. Your thoughts on what he had to say?
First of all, good morning, Olive.
Good morning.
And, good morning to the rest of Kenyans. And like Joe, I don't have greetings from any village. But I think I should be commended at least for making sure that Ascon is here. Now, onto the matter of the Inspector General. I think, first of all, we discussed here a headline before during the protest of the silence of the Inspector General. It is unfortunate that when we now discuss that he is not silent, we are again discussing the making of a rogue police boss. I think we should not be able to be politicizing everything in this country, and especially the death of people is not something that you throw into political banter. These are things that we must be able to discuss wholesomely and effectively, because if there was anything of the sort, and in the weird imagination that this was even to be true, then as a police boss you come with facts so that you don't feed the country on rumors and just be able to stir up political temperatures that were actually starting to actually cool down. So I think this was quite unfortunate, and I think it is within the same week that we have seen the Inspector General online with promoting some officers on the roadside. I don't know whether that was, because I saw something like that online. So I think the police boss really has to understand the weight with which his office comes with. And I'm sure this office is a communication department and there's a PR department. I think some of these things, if when he says them, they must come out this way, he would better let them be said by the communication desk so that it's able to be packaged in the correct information, because you really cannot be able to say that when families are grieving out there, then you come and say that bodies were picked from the morgues and distributed. I think that is the lowest we can go in terms of just trying to be political with the death of Kenyans. Yeah.
You know, he was trying to make the point that it was around the time that Karim Khan, Azimio had brought up the question of Karim Khan in the country, and whether that was indicative that he was beholden to the sitting president, and then thereafter Khan recused himself, I believe I read, from the Kenya case.
Yes.
And then thereafter we had, what's his name? Now the Inspector General of Police come up and say he's not intimidated by threats of being taken to the ICC. But I was just giving a bit of context of what was happening at the time the IG made the statement. You have something to add, advise?
Yeah, because I tend to think whatever the context, there is nothing that can justify such a statement. You saying that bodies were picked from wherever and distributed on the roads, there is no kind of justification that can actually be able to make that look like it was the right thing. The only way you can be able to justify such is to provide evidence and be very factual with it. And then the question would become, why did you not say it at that time? Why wait until this time? Because the political temperature is actually going down. We are now having talks. The talks have just commenced. If there is anything we need now as a country, is we need everyone in the same boat for us to start now steering towards the right direction. But we can't get to that level. Then after the headlines of a silent police boss, you come to again stir political waters. I think that is quite unfortunate.
All right,
Yeah.
Kirinya Mwenda, a case of foot in mouth?
Well, Olive, good morning,
Good morning.
to you and to the viewers. My name is Kirinya Mwenda. I come from Meru. I'm a nominated member of County Assembly to represent youth. Yes, I'll send greetings to Meru County residents, especially my colleagues in the 3rd County Assembly. Now, to the question of making of a rogue police boss, it is quite reckless that the man from my area made such reckless and careless utterances, given that we saw even the Azimio top echelons, held a mass requiem for people that were, affected. I don't think it makes a case of justice to the people that lost their lives and to their families and friends. Therefore, I expect this man to, exercise some bit of empathy, especially with the families and to the Kenyans. And, if the top is rotten, how do you expect the rest of the police force to behave? If their boss speaks like he does, how do you expect, the people that he leads to treat Kenyans? How do you expect the rest of the, cadres below him to behave towards Kenyans? Therefore, he should actually come out and apologize to the families that lost lives and their loved ones.
All right. Yeah. Somebody asked for facts. Who was it? Is it you, Advice? Yeah. So I have a document that was shared with me by IMLU. Kidogo your independent medical inakwanga? Independent medical?
I don't know.
Okay, ngoja. Just Google. Inanichanganisha kidogo. Here we go. Let me just zoom in here. We'll all see it better. Independent Medical Legal Unit. We are together?
All right.
Yes.
All right. So these are the statistics they compiled during the Azimio-led Mandamano during the Azimio-led Mandamanos between, and this is July the 7th to 12th, 19th, 20th, 2023. Total police killings, they tell us 35 that they have been able to verify. 12 in Kisumu, 4 in Machakos, 4 in Nairobi, 3 in Migori, 2 in Kisii, 2 in Busia, 2 in Makueni, 2 in Kajiado, 2 in Nakuru. They now provide more details. Kisii, 3, Patrick Mogaka, male, police shooting, gunshot, live bullets. Also in Kisii, Evans Makori, male, police shooting, gunshot, live bullets. Eunice Mudeu, female, and this was July the 7th, 2023, police shooting, gunshot, live bullets. They tell us in Migori, and this was on July the 7th, Regan Otieno Odero, male, 21, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet, gunshot on the head from the front. Frederick Omongo, male, 54, suffocated with tear gas. Kisumu, 2, Duncan Simiyu Okelo, male, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet. Derek Adongo, male, 21, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet. So 6 males, 1 female, documented cases by IMLU, and this is July the 7th, 2023. Counties, this is now for July the 12th, 2023. Kisumu, 2, Fanuel Ochieng, male, 18, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet. Bernard, no second name here or age, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet. Nairobi, 1, Raphael Shigali, male, 35, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet. Migori, 1, Steve Okinyi, male, 19, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet. Makueni, 1, this is Emali Brian, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet. Busia, Pascal Owino Hayongo, male, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet. Not yet identified, a male, same police shootings, gunshot, live bullet. In Kajiado 2, Kitengela, Hilary Luango Manono, male, 20. Same police killing, Joseph Ogonda, male, 18, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet. In Machakos, we have Faith, 5 cases, Mlolongo. Faith Wanjiru, female, 20, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet, shot at the back. Dennis Mwendo Mwekali, male, 36, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet, shot at chest, near range, 2 bullet fragments recovered, handed over to IPOA. Alex Mtinda Nzuve, male, 23, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet, shot on the head. The bullet entered via left temporal part and exited via left. Harris Ochieng, male, 23, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet, gunshot at the forehead, long range. Edward Wanjala, male, 27, police killing, head injury due to a single gunshot wound. So this is 13 males, 1 female documented cases by IMLU. They tell us, and this is July the 12th, 2023. Let us see, we're almost here we have July 19th. Have I skipped any? So we, or July is this July? Yes, July the 12th. And the ones at the top that I looked at was July. Okay, so we've looked at July 7th. We've looked at July 19th, have we? And, all right, other cases here. Nairobi, Kawangware, male, police shooting. Eliam Michael Odwori in Kisumu, John Ocheng.
It was the right thing. The only way you can be able to justify such is to provide evidence and be very factual with it. And then the question would become, why did you not say it at that time? Why wait until this time? Because the political temperature is actually going down. We are now having talks. The talks have just commenced. If there is anything we need now as a country, is we need everyone in the same boat for us to start now steering towards the right direction. But we can't get to that level. Then after the headlines of a silent police boss, you come to again stir political waters. I think that is quite unfortunate.
All right,
Yeah.
Kirinya Mwenda, a case of foot in mouth?
Well, Olive, good morning,
Good morning.
to you and to the viewers. My name is Kirinya Mwenda. I come from Meru. I'm a nominated member of County Assembly to represent youth. Yes, I'll send greetings to Meru County residents, especially my colleagues in the 3rd County Assembly. Now, to the question of making of a rogue police boss, it is quite reckless that the man from my area made such reckless and careless utterances, given that we saw even the Azimio top echelons, held a mass requiem for people that were, affected. I don't think it makes a case of justice to the people that lost their lives and to their families and friends. Therefore, I expect this man to, exercise some bit of empathy, especially with the families and to the Kenyans. And, if the top is rotten, how do you expect the rest of the police force to behave? If their boss speaks like he does, how do you expect, the people that he leads to treat Kenyans? How do you expect the rest of the, cadres below him to behave towards Kenyans? Therefore, he should actually come out and apologize to the families that lost lives and their loved ones.
All right. Yeah. Somebody asked for facts. Who was it? Is it you, Advice? Yeah. So I have a document that was shared with me by IMLU. Kidogo your independent medical inakwanga? Independent medical?
I don't know.
Okay, ngoja. Just Google. Inanichanganisha kidogo. Here we go. Let me just zoom in here. We'll all see it better. Independent Medical Legal Unit. We are together?
All right.
Yes.
All right. So these are the statistics they compiled during the Azimio-led Mandamano during the Azimio-led Mandamanos between, and this is July the 7th to 12th, 19th, 20th, 2023. Total police killings, they tell us 35 that they have been able to verify. 12 in Kisumu, 4 in Machakos, 4 in Nairobi, 3 in Migori, 2 in Kisii, 2 in Busia, 2 in Makueni, 2 in Kajiado, 2 in Nakuru. They now provide more details. Kisii, 3. Patrick Mogaka, male, police shooting, gunshot, live bullets. Also in Kisii, Evans Makori, male, police shooting, gunshot, live bullets. Eunice Mudeu, female, and this was July the 7th, 2023, police shooting, gunshot, live bullets. They tell us in Migori, and this was on July the 7th, Regan Otieno Odero, male, 21, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet, gunshot on the head from the front. Frederick Omongo, male, 54, suffocated with tear gas. Kisumu, 2, Duncan Simiyu Okelo, male, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet. Derek Adongo, male, 21, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet. So 6 males, 1 female, documented cases by IMLU, and this is July the 7th, 2023. Counties, this is now for July the 12th, 2023. Kisumu 2, Fanuel Ochieng, male, 18, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet. Bernard, no second name here or age, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet. Nairobi 1, Raphael Shigali, male, 35, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet. Migori 1, Steve Okinyi, male, 19, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet. Makueni 1, this is Emali Brian, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet. Busia Pascal Owino Hayongo, male, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet. Not yet identified, a male, same police shootings, gunshot, live bullet. In Kajiado 2, Kitengela Hilary Luango Manono, male, 20. Same police killing Joseph Ogonda, male, 18, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet. In Machakos, we have Faith, 5 cases, Mlolongo, Faith Wanjiru, female, 20, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet, shot at the back. Dennis Mwendo Mwekali, male, 36, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet, shot at chest, near range, 2 bullet fragments recovered, handed over to IPOA. Alex Mtinda Nzuve, male, 23, police shootings, gunshot, live bullet, shot on the head. The bullet entered via left temporal part and exited via left. Harris Ochieng, male, 23, police shooting, gunshot, live bullet, gunshot at the forehead, long range. Edward Wanjala, male, 27, police killing, head injury due to a single gunshot wound. So this is 13 males, 1 female documented cases by IMLU. They tell us, and this is July the 12th, 2023. Let us see, we're almost, here we have July 19th. Have I skipped any? So we, or July the, is this July? Yes, July the 12th. And the ones at the top that I looked at was July. Okay, so we've looked at July 7th. We've looked at July 19th, have we? And, all right, other cases here. Nairobi, Kawangware, male, police shooting. Eliam Michael Odori in Kisumu, John Ocheng, George Odhiambo, not yet identified, 3 males. So those are the figures there. Most of the victims, this is their conclusion, were youth, age 18 to 35. Kisumu was the worst affected town, 12 police killings, followed by Mlolongo, Machakos at 5 killings. Males were highly targeted compared to female counterparts, accounting for 94% of the cases out of 35 recorded and documented cases. All the incidents happened in urban centers, mainly major towns of the counties. In Nairobi, slums were highly targeted. All the fatal shootings happened in slums. So total police, they tell us, killing, 34 police killings. So these are the cases they have documented. All right, so let's take a look at another story, and this one has to do with, because we have a lot of stories on the performance. So let's take a look at the Star now. A lot of stories on the review of salaries, and the Star tells us how SRC gave MPs bigger pay than Ruto. We had the performance, the Mzalendo Trust, what was it? Analysis, let me call it that, right? Scorecard, I believe is a terminology they used on how these MPs performed. Your thoughts? I don't know, Joseph, whether you had a chance to interrogate that document? No? I can pull it up. Ascon?
Well, I had a chance to look at it. I believe you're talking about the Mzalendo Trust scorecard, right?
Yes.
And I see they were ranking MPs, members of parliament in the Senate and the National Assembly. The truth of the matter is the scorecard actually represents the true position of what happens in both houses. And it is very unfortunate that there are members of parliament who haven't uttered a word since they were elected, while others have really taken time to contribute on the floor of the House. What the members of parliament must realize is that the National Assembly and the Senate are houses of debate, and that they're expected to contribute about issues that are affecting the country more on the floor of the House because it has more authority. It will also give us give them more relevance going out there. The impression that has been created by members of Parliament that their work is more about how they can interact with people down there in the funerals and weddings and such kind of setting. While that is not bad because they have to have that one-on-one with their locals and the people who voted for them. The most important thing is that they have to understand that by law they're given all the authority and opportunity to represent the people on the floor of the House. They need to go out there and canvass the issues that affect the people on the floor of the House. And with that, then we would not be discussing the tax bill. We would not be discussing, the SRC question, why we feel SRC might have not done the right thing. These things can be discussed properly on the floor of the House and a decision made, a decision that is impactful and a decision that can actually change the course of things. So our members of Parliament then need to understand. I remember Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi at some point then in a rally in the village was comparing himself to Luo MPs, and he says the Luo MPs will go to Parliament and speak a lot of English and forget about their people in the village, while he is very focused on empowering his people down there. I think they need to strike a balance between the activities you undertake in the village, considering now that the CDF is still in limbo. There's this question of entrenching the CDF. Our constitution has been proposed by the Kenya Kwanza on the talks that are ongoing right now, and has been part of what the president has been advancing. There's the Senate Oversight Fund that is still in question here. There's still some confusion as to what responsibility they'll be playing in managing CDF and contributing in the management of CDF down in the villages. So their focus should be more on how to, go out there in Parliament and debate the real issues. I remember at some point when we were having this conversation with Advice earlier, the question of why Azimio then would want to always divorce itself from the operations of Parliament and go to the streets comes to my mind right now. If the MPs then took their work in Parliament more seriously and contributed to issues and debate, I remember just a few months ago, or not even weeks ago, the Speaker of the National Assembly had to suspend a whole committee for not appearing, in Parliament for a number of times. That tells you, or that paints the picture of how bad the situation is. Our MPs need to take their work seriously and more seriously at the National Assembly level and the floor of the House. They need to understand their roles are very distinct in the Constitution. There is representation, there's oversight, and more fundamentally is legislation. Legislation means making laws, and laws are made in Parliament.
All right. So, Joseph, for your benefit, this is the parliamentary scorecard for 2023. And here is who they tell us are the most active.
And before you go there, if you don't mind,
okay, no problem.
that has just brought to my mind that I see on that list, some of the least performing members of Parliament are nominated, party-nominated members of Parliament. So I wonder, what then do they do out there? They don't have a constituency to go back to, apart from the ones that are contesting probably. Their sole responsibility is to sit in Parliament and debate and propose ideas, make policies and legislations. So they should take it more seriously. When you're nominated by a party in Parliament, what should be your responsibility? Go and canvass the ideas and the ideology of that party on the floor of the House.
All right. So, Joseph,
yes.
The National Assembly, most active members, Honorable Makali Mulu, Wiper Party, Beatrice Alachi, Dagoretti North, ODM, James Nyikal, Seme, ODM, Ken Chonga, Kilifi South, ODM, Geoffrey Kiringa, Rukumbe North, DP. Most active women MPs, Beatrice Alachi, Dagoretti North, ODM, Sarah Korere, Jubilee North, Jubilee, Beatrice Kemei, Kericho UDA, Lillian Gogo, ODM, Rangwe, Phyllis Bartol Moiben, UDA. Least active woman MPs, Teresia Wanjiru Mwangi, nominated, UDA, Elizabeth Kailemia, Meru, UDA, Mudhoni Marubu, Independent, Lamu. We also have here Least active members, George Aladwa Omwera, Makadara ODM, Samuel Arama, Nakuru Town West, Jubilee, Oscar Sudi, Kapsaret constituency, UDA, and along all this is 0000. I'm assuming the 0 submissions, maybe, or engagement on the floor of the House. Ernest Ogesi, Fred Kapondi, Charles Gimose, Faisal Bader, and the list goes on, making mention of the most active youth MPs, given we are getting the youth perspective. Gitonga Mukunji, UDA, Irene Mayaka, ODM, James Lemengit, UDA, Robert Ngui Basil, Wiper, Joshua Kimilu, Wiper, Amos Mwago, Jubilee. Least active youth MPs, Jafet Nyakui, Kitutu Chache North, UDA, Zahir Janda, Nyaribari Chache, UDA, Etersia Wanjiru Mwangi, nominated UDA. All right, that's, you get the idea, Joseph.
Yes. What I wanted to say that if you look at the statistics you are going through, let's look at the MPs. If you look at the MPs, the most active members of parliament are first timers in parliament. Most of them, 90%, are first timers in parliament. When you look at the least active members of parliament, they are the second timers or the third timers in parliament.
I'm not entirely sure your analysis is accurate. Look,
let's go there.
Look at these names. James Nikal is
the members of
parliament.
Just go down where we had like Kakina Fred Kapondi and the likes.
Do you mean the least active among what?
There. Just go down. That's most active youth MPs. Yes, the most active youth MPs.
Oh, okay.
If you look at them, 90% are first-time members in parliament. 90% of them. Just look at them.
But wouldn't that be expected of youth MPs? Yeah.
Then we go to the least active members, from the George Aladwa, Samuel Arama, Oscar Sudi. All those people are maybe in their second term or that time, maybe in parliament. Maybe they have known something that is working for them while they are in parliament. Like Oscar Sudi, as my friend has said, said that he doesn't have to make noise in parliament while his people are waiting him in the villages, and they are the people who vote him. Look at the person like Samuel Arama. The same thing he said. He said that he's always there with people in Mashinani. Look at George Arado. He's very active with Mashinani. And what I think should
Mashinani and Nairobi.
Mashinani and Nairobi. Yeah. He's very active at the hood. Fred Kapondi and the likes. What I think should happen is that these people, they integrated the National Assembly role of legislative. And what they are doing now is how you can get the second term. It's not what you can make laws for posterity. They don't care who will come after them and how they will find the country. What they are interested right now is how can they able to secure the next the post in parliament or in Senate, or because politics has become nowadays a career. It's not a way of maybe improving a country or making a country run. It's a career that you have to come from the MP, you go for the governor, then you go for the Senate again, then you go for the MP. Most of the people, vifo zinawakuta bado wakipigania hizi viti. So what I wanted to say is that as much as we may disagree with some of these analyses, most of them, they are working for the MPs who have been in the houses for long. They know what works for them and what doesn't work. And most of the members who are very active in parliament, they usually find themselves out in the next election.
All right. Your thoughts, advice quickly, so that I can get us into the topic of conversation?
Yeah, so we'll have to give other people a lower time so that we don't suffer always getting to the next topic of conversation.
Oh.
So my point is, you see what the ranking, first of all, Mzalendo really did a good job, because I went through the report and it was quite analytical. But then there has to be the realization that the ranking of members of parliament has to be in tandem with their work and perception of the people. Because as time goes by, there was a time when this ranking was a big deal and it made the front cover newspaper headline. Today in all the newspapers, there's nowhere where they're front cover, including even those members of parliament who have been ranked well are not even seen celebrating those rankings.
But you know, this is a report that was released on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So yeah, the headline would have been on Thursday.
Friday. Yes.
The headline would have been on Thursday.
It was not there.
It's just that I can't I can't access my e-paper.
It was not there, and even the members of parliament who are actually even the top performers have not celebrated these to the extent we have seen it in the past. Basically because this ranking is not necessarily something that that the people look up to. The people are not so interested in this ranking, and that is the problem. I think Mzalendo has to look for ways in which this ranking has to be directly proportional, so that what you do in parliament, it should be what you do in parliament versus also what you do on the ground. So that then it will be very reflective, and members of parliament will be so interested in this work. Because we have seen people being ranked low, but they have come back. So basically the ranking doesn't make a lot of sense. We have seen people have been ranked highly, but they have been voted out. So for this ranking to really be able to elicit the correct reaction from the public, the two of them must be merged. It should not just be about how many times you're speaking in parliament, because ordinarily the common Kenyan seems not to be very keen on how many times you're speaking, but the common Kenyan is interested in how impactful are you to him at the grassroots level. So there must be that. Otherwise, for as long as the ranking continues just being this, it will just continue being some literature that we'll keep talking about, but the common Kenyan is not really interested in it. But be that as it may, I think I'm happy that Jubilee MPs rank very highly in that report, if you're able to see. I have Honorable Sarah Korere there, ranking as the second most active member of parliament. I have Amos Mwago there, ranking as one of the most active youth leaders. So in percentage-wise, I think when you do an amalgamation, which I think Mzalendo didn't do, Jubilee will actually rank highest as a political party.
You wanted to interject before Kirinya?
Okay, well, just a minute. I just wanted to, maybe as in defense of Mzalendo Trust, and again as to what advice says, I think Mzalendo Trust put more attention to the purest roles of a member of parliament. You know, they don't look at the member of parliament as a manager of CDF. Actually, the member of parliament is just a patron down there. They have no specific or legally established responsibility in managing the CDF, which is what they fashion as developing the ground. And secondly, the pure roles of a member of parliament are legislation. Legislation is being in parliament and speaking about things in parliament, coming up with laws. That should be the basis upon which you know, a member of parliament is evaluated. Representation, where does this come? While we could talk about representation in the villages and stuff, and more about interacting with people out there, the biggest form of representation is in parliament. You have to represent your people in parliament, represent the ideas, speak about the ideas.
We have a legislator here. We have a legislator. Gojeni, we kona mheshimiwa hapa. Your thoughts, Kirinya?
Well, I think there is nothing that can justify an honorable member missing out on contributing in on the floor of the House. There's nothing can justify that. You can't tell me or Kenyans that you've been very busy, you know, qua ground, that's what they say, to an extent of missing out debates, missing out on, for example, voting on like the finance bill and debating it, missing out on serious issues that are affecting this country. So there is nothing that can justify that. And like my colleagues have said, there are three major roles for a member of parliament, for instance. One of them is legislation. So you can't run away from a constitutional mandate, a constitutional responsibility. By way of saying, you know, what matters is what I'm doing on the ground. And remember, even this other role of representation, you are not representing people on the ground. You are representing your people in parliament. Therefore, there is nothing that can justify members of parliament missing on important House debates. And I also want to, you know, say this, that when you go to parliament, you find that your people will miss out on serious, you know, allocations of, you know, resources, because now when resources were being allocated, let's say, for example, in the finance committees, agriculture committee, health committee, there are a lot of, you know, things that goes on in terms of allocating, you know, resources and projects in those committees. So why would you miss out on such in the excuse of being on the ground? Then the other thing, when it comes to debates in the parliament, is that there are specified dates for being in parliament. For instance, in Meru County Assembly, we are in the chambers on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So why would you miss out on a calendar on the house calendar, when the rest of the days you can be on the ground. So, for instance, maybe Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, you can set aside those days for being with Wananchi. But then the dates that are set aside for Parliament, that is why you're being paid. So you need to attend the sessions and make your contributions.
All right. What's that famous saying, mambo kwa ground? The different,
Yes.
right? So, I mean, because MCAs are themselves clamoring for a ward development fund,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, you know, as Ascon said, you know, it may be the core function, but mambo kwa ground need different advice.
Yeah, because you see, we have to make a decision whether to be idealistic or realistic. Because what ASCON is shaping is a very idealistic view, which looks very nice in terms of when it is spoken. But we are in this country, and we have to look at, first of all, why does Mzalendo have to do the ranking? They have to do that. They want to do this ranking so that they can be able to influence and shape perception, so that the people can be able to know this is how a member of parliament is performing. And once you know that, then it can influence our decision making in the next election. Now, if they cannot be able to achieve that as per their ranking, then they must actually change the concept. Because what is happening is that the ranking is being done in a very idealistic manner, but it's not achieving the end game. So when you're not achieving the results, you must change it. Because I have told you, even the ones who have done well have not celebrated it. Because, and you know, members, politicians take credit in the list of things. So if they are not even able to take credit in this, that means there is a problem somewhere. So it is not about just being idealistic and verbose and saying that these are the roles of members of parliament. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows the roles of the president. But we saw the president in Mount Kenya. We saw the president on a development tour. So the reality is that the people are not just looking at how many times you are speaking in parliament. And the parliamentarians have a quick excuse to say there are very many. And they will say, because we are 400 and those 500 members, it is not even easy to get the chance in the first place. So the question should be, and what Mzalendo should do so that they can be able to achieve the end game, is that there should be a correlation between your performance in parliament vis-a-vis your performance in what we famously call kwa ground. Because those two, that's what the common Kenyan is actually looking at. What is your development record? What is your CDF? How is it? And that's why you usually see the ranking of CDF. I don't know whether it's still Mzalendo that does the same. When CDF is ranked, MPs are very quick to talk about it. It makes a lot of news because they know that is where the interest of the common Kenyan is. But when it comes about speaking in parliament, I agree that is the fundamental role of the member of parliament. And that is what they should actually be doing the most. But we must also be politically realistic, that the common Kenyan is not extremely interested in that aspect. The common Kenyan is interested in what are you doing for us vis-a-vis what are you doing in parliament. And that is just it. So let's not just be too idealistic. Let us be realistic.
All right. So I just want to look at who talked about the committee.
No,
Was it
Oliver,
you, Joseph?
I wanted to say in one word that the people you are ranking list here, the likes of Kina Oscar Sudi, you usually rank them list.
Yeah,
then after the election, they win again. Wanauliza hapa ni wapi? They are in parliament again.
But I think...
and the people you rank highest, they just go home. That is Kenya for you. The real ideal Kenya. But we might go to the ideal.
I think
but that is the real country we have.
Attaching premium to what has become the normal, when it's actually not the right thing, is not doing justice to the common person. Look at it this way. We have a constitution that very few Kenyans have understood, and even the Kenyans who voted for it have understood what exactly the constitution anticipated. The constitution actually, and if you remember when we were young, we had members of parliament ranked purely on their participation in parliament. I remember people like Orengo, Kajuang, and that league of leaders. They are more respected, people like Midiwo, based on their contribution on the floor of the House at that time. And now, there was need to cure this because there was this question of, you guys just talk too much and there's little on the ground. We are not feeling, I mean, how then are you leaders? You're not changing our lives. That's why then now devolution came, you know. That's how devolution came, so that we could separate roles. We could have, you know, the devolved government with the governor purely given the responsibility to develop the people down there. And there's a member of parliament with very distinct roles. Little wonder we're having a conversation on the CDF and why the constitution wanted the CDF as has been, or the Constitution wanted the CDF in a different fashion, or the Constitution didn't want the CDF at all. So I understand that the people are accustomed to a member of parliament going out there and giving bursaries, lining people up, and then they take credit for it. The people are used to a member of parliament coming to school and opening a classroom. But is that what our constitution anticipated? In the ideal setup, as advice correctly puts it, which in most cases is not very appealing to people, but is the right thing to do we need to leave our people to imagine that MCAs, who is earning 170,000 from the SRC report or thereabout, would be able to give people 5,000 shillings for every funeral in the village? It's not possible. I mean, that's how we have an MCA going to demand from the governor to give them some handout to keep sustaining the ground, what they call the ground. That's you have a member of parliament who has to spend 300,000. Most of our members of parliament who are our friends, we know how they spend money. How is a member of parliament earning 600 or 700,000 monthly going to spend 300,000 every weekend for just funerals without talking about anything else? While it is important that we look at our leaders in that manner, because that is what we are accustomed to, we have to look at what the Constitution looked at and what we had anticipated when we were promulgating this Constitution, and encourage our people that we have different leaders at different levels. There's a reason why I have a woman representative. What are they supposed to be doing? They're not supposed to be purely distributing money in funerals. That's not bad. That's normal. Even you, at your level, you send money for in some activities in your village. Everybody else does that. But if we reduce our leaders to philanthropy at that level, and maybe at some point they'll not be able to sustain it, that's how we get into corruption. Okay. And then corruption grows, and we start complaining about our leaders stealing from us. They're stealing from us.
A minute, so that we transition.
I'm just wondering, if we are to dismiss the ranking by Mzalendo Trust, then what will be the future of legislation in this country? If we are to dismiss, what legislators do in terms of making laws and regulations for this country, if we are to only focus on the work they do on the ground, then what the future of legislation and the quality of laws and regulations made for this country is doomed. So I don't think we should entirely dismiss what the Mzalendo Trust have done.
Advice, close this one.
First of all, no one has dismissed Mzalendo. What I'm just saying is that we have to really be also realistic. And ASCON makes it look like when we say performance of an MP away from parliament, then we mean the MP being corrupt or the MP attending funerals and giving money. I think that is far from it. The women representative has a fund from the national government, Affirmative Action Fund. We have NGAF. The member of parliament has CDF. And these people are put into office by the people. You are elected by the people. So even how you are responsive to the needs of your people, how you are responsive to them, it's not always about saying that if it's not parliament, then you are distributing money in the villages. No. But some of these people, some of us are elected, and once they get to Nairobi, they have zero touch with even those people. Even just knowing how those people are doing, even just knowing the problems that are there, even for you to go and listen to the people. We were seeing what was happening in Gishu the other day, where the senator and the governor were able to sit with their people just to listen to them and not run away from their problems. That is part of representation. So it is not just about speaking in parliament and then doing nothing at all, and then you say that is purely your role. At the end of the day,
the opposite could also be argued. It's not just about being on the ground and not representing.
Exactly.
Because you could listen to the people, but you actually now have to come back to the house and ask the transport cabinet secretary, why is this road, why has it taken this long? Why is the progress of this road stalled?
You have to allow me prosecute my point in wholesome.
All right.
Because that is why I said I do not dismiss the report. But I said there must be able to strike a balance between what happens in parliament vis-a-vis what also happens on the ground. So that when we are ranking this member of parliament, it is something that is reflective of the needs of the people. So that we're not just looking at it on one side. I'm not saying just look at it from the perspective of them talking to the people. But I'm also saying don't just look at it from the perspective of speaking. We have some people who are naturally more gifted to speak than others. Even on this panel, you can say, if you rank on this panel, ASCON is number one.
Speaking, but tunapanda bus, tunaenda wapi? Mount Kenya sasa.
The last one on this matter, Olive, we need to look at it. When you legislate, you don't legislate for your constituents alone. You legislate for the country. Yeah. Okay. So ideally, you don't just legislate for the people of your constituent. You legislate for the country. So you're doing a disservice in as much as you're working for your people on the ground, you are doing a disservice to the rest of the Kenyans who expect you to perhaps give an opinion on serious matters affecting the country.
All right, so guys,
Maybe just last one. I mean, you know, advice is very right in what he says. We need to strike a balance. But in defense of Mzalendo Trust, if you go to the University of Nairobi and ask them to do a research today, they'll not go, looking or scouting for what the people want. They'll go purely for what is in the book. The Mzalendo Trust are for what is in the book. What is in the book are the pure roles of a member of parliament.
All right.
And that is
so
what they're
you're
looking
saying
at.
they
So
should
in
not
the-
go
in their
around
defense-
counting school buses donated by.
I mean, yeah, it's very unfortunate.
Somebody mentioned. No, I'm
Not achieved.
on a light note. Somebody mentioned a committee here. Was it you, Joseph? And the Speaker Moses Wetangula raised concern over absenteeism by committee chairperson. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, called upon the leader of majority and minority to take immediate action against the chairperson Public Petitions Committee following his absenteeism during plenary sessions, expressing concern over the absence of Honorable Nimrod Mbai. This is the guy who had the electric slap.
That's what I was talking about.
It's the guy who gave the electric slap, eh? Is it him? Is it him? It's him, yeah.
Yes,
Speaker Wetangula noted that this situation has not only failed to serve the interest of the House, but also hindered the committee's business and resulted in backlog of unresolved petitions. The substantial number of pending petitions before this committee demands swift attention. If this situation persists, I urge the leader of the majority party or the leader of the minority party to consider reconstituting the committee to better serve the public. And he added that members of the public place their hopes on members of parliament to address their issues. Consequently, by allowing petitions to accumulate without resolution, we are letting down the citizens we are meant to represent.
And Olive, imagine for a minute, we have three arms of government. Imagine the judiciary, the judges are not coming to court. I want you to imagine for a minute. That is why I think our members of parliament don't take the responsibility in parliament seriously. The petitions that are being brought before parliament are prosecuted just as they are done in the High Court or anywhere else. You know, when a committee is supposed to interrogate a matter, particularly on a question of corruption somewhere, it carries as much weight as probably the EACC. Maybe then they don't have that much authority, but it carries just as much weight as when they're interrogating KEMSA.
All right.
So our people and our leaders should put as much weight as they're demanding of judges in court, as they're demanding of the president and the executive. Our legislators must also be put to task to come before parliament.
All right.
And now we're talking about the university amendment, I mean the university fee. I mean, where else should this be prosecuted? It should be prosecuted in parliament, not in the villages telling people how the university fee is not paid.
All right, so guys, I have to end it. I have to take a break, and then we come back with Mount Kenya. But Opio Wandai said it is high time we address this matter decisively, as this committee deals with the highest number of issues presented to the House on a daily basis. Kimani Ichung'wah, majority leader, said responsibility as a chairperson or vice chairperson of a committee comes with the duty to be present in the House and in your committee. We'll take a break. We'll be back. Tunapanda basi, tunaenda Mount Kenya.
On this episode of Thamani, we focus on the farming business, Magbo's nursery seedlings production.
There was this time when I was not employed and I was thinking of what to do. I decided to do tissue culture bananas. I was given a credit of 3,000 shillings. My intention was to start it and then I go and look for employment, but that never happened because my nursery continued growing and bringing more income.
What is his biggest inspiration?
When you see a plant you have planted, then the following year it's growing. That aspect alone gives me a lot of inspiration.
All these and more on Saturday at 5:30 p.m. Thamani, showcasing resilience and exploring scalability.
Are you ready for a challenge that could change your life? Introducing #Nation Scholarship Challenge. We all know that getting an education can be tough, but we also know that a scholarship can make a huge difference. That's why Nation Media Group and Goodwill are giving you the chance to win 80,000 Kenya shillings. All you need to do is to post a video telling us why you want this scholarship and how it will help you achieve your goals. Don't forget to use the hashtag Nation Scholarship in your post. It's super easy, and by taking part, you'll be part of a global community of people who are all working towards their goals. So if you're thinking about pursuing higher education or have big career aspirations, this is your chance to take a step forward. Don't wait too long. Complete your Goodwill profile and share your story with us now.
Do not hold back in any situation. Eno gets to work on the 6 symptoms of heartburn fast.
You do know you said all of that out loud, right?
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
But I know that meat looks tender, but maybe not so much when your chest is burning. Remember what happened the last time? Hey, dude, you don't listen, man. Are you testing yourself? I tried looking out for you, bro. Hey, you see now? How's the heartburn? Look now, it's burning.
Do not hold back in any situation. Eno gets to work on the 6 symptoms of heartburn fast.
You do know you said all of that out loud, right?
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
All right, the conversation has continued even during the break. Did I list the guys who have not even made speeches? Anyway, let me not get you guys started on this again. All right, the other day, right, I wake up, I go onto Twitter, I see trending Pauline. I'm like, why is Pauline trending? I go, I click, I see that she has said she doesn't know what you know, right after her experience with at the hands of police. She's still at it. She has said she will not be silenced. So this is some of what she posted. William Ruto, which Joseph had said, I think the last time you were here, in anticipation of this tour. William Ruto will be camping in the Mount Kenya region to launch Uhuru's projects, some of which were completed long ago. I thought they said hakuna kitu Uhuru alikuwa anafanya. And then later on, I also saw this post, and she says, the Odhaya Water Project was launched by President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2016. Today, Ruto will relaunch the project 7 years after its launching. Next in line, relaunching of the Mombasa, on a light note, I'm assuming, Mombasa-Nairobi SGR, and she also said something about the Thika Highway and launching. Anyway, so basically, what did you guys make of the president's tour, what was said? I remember right before he made the tour, Joseph, we were talking about, is this about the talks? Yeah.
Oliver, first I want to say that it was not a development tour in Mount Kenya. It was a pure campaign tour. And I think we need to change our constitution and put a clause that an elected president should not be seen on top of a vehicle for the next 4 years so that he can be able to implement his plan. Having said that, I can be able to tell you that whatever Pauline Njoroge is saying is the pure truth. Because look at the tour of President William Samoei Ruto in Mount Kenya. It only had one agenda, how they were going to take Raila Amolo Odinga to Bondo unknowingly. We have been taking Raila to Bondo so many times, but it has not been going. So this time around, we are going to take him unknowingly. That is the word that they introduced. Look at from Githurai. The market was, and I said here before, that market had been constructed by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and completed. We go to the Odhaya, the one that you have showcased there, water project, Mukureni water project. That it was launched 7 years ago. We go to Narumoro Hospital, it's even complete. We go to the Marwa State House Road, it is even complete. Most of these projects were completed long ago. But you know why? This is the problem we have. we have a dire economic situation that is happening in our country. And I think the readers are underestimating the risk now and what will happen in future. Because having a let me finish. Let me finish. They are underestimating this because we cannot be having a president going to quell talks in Mount Kenya, that because people of Mount Kenya, he has been told they are afraid of the talks. Now you take a 10-day tour, but you deceive people that you are launching projects, but it's a quell talk. Because look at the road to Mount Kenya. Everybody who came out to receive the president, because we live in Mount Kenya region, everybody was being paid 500 to 1,000 shillings. Everybody who came out. And it's wrong. It's not... receipts. I can even read for you them here, from even Mukureni.
Okay, let Ascon.
I don't want to go for the receipt.
Let Ascon come in at this point. Ascon, Kamili, you know, was this about the president going to reassure his base? And I call them his base because Rigathi Gachagua said, you know, you are our what? Our king. Akasema, you know, you crossed River Chania. I don't know at what time.
No, and actually
8 hours. Then it needs to take you 8 hours to get total. Alisema tulikuwa tunafika mali tunaona muda inaenda muda bado wanamweka hapo anaambia watoto imbeni. Wanafika mali kidogo anakimbizwa. Ndo afike 8 hours afike wapi? Sagana.
You know, that was very symbolic anyway, because if I picture, you know, there was a book done by Ngugi wa Thiong'o, The River Between, and he painted that whole scenario correctly, the way Rigathi was doing it the other day. So I think I will agree with him that there was some little relevance to what they were trying to do politically in Mount Kenya. But having said that, there's something very important that we need to look at here. There's a specific reason why Uhuru Kenyatta lost Mount Kenya to William Ruto. There's a reason why William Ruto was able to gain access in Western Kenya and the Coast Province, which have originally been Raila Odinga's strongholds. It is because of the one-on-one engagement that William Ruto does with his supporters and even his new supporters. If you look at the kind of attention he's giving Nyanza right now, you might wonder whether Nyanza will actually vote for William Ruto or not. And that is what makes the difference between his plan in an election and the plan of the usual politics that we are accustomed to. You'll see that for us it's more about the hype without taking care of the detail of the numbers of the voters. Ruto understands that there was already some heat in Mount Kenya, considering you know, the handshake that was somewhere in the air. He understands that Mount Kenya understands politics differently. And Mount Kenya has fashioned its politics around the concept of blackmail, that if you don't do what they want, then there are consequences to it. So it was important that Ruto needed to engage them. But he wouldn't have just gone there to shout and tell them how the handshake is not going to work, there's nothing like a handshake. He needed a reason to go there. Little wonder he went for the projects that are already on course by the government. And I don't see anything wrong with President William Ruto going down there to launch a project that was begun by President Uhuru Kenyatta. This is a government. What Ruto heads is the administration of this government. What Uhuru headed was the administration of his government. The government is an entirely different system that runs with or without a president in place. That's why even when we are just coming from an election and the period is still there, that we don't have a substantive president, there is a government that is running and salaries are being paid and things are continuing to happen. So we are not going to expect that William Ruto should divorce himself from what was done by the other administration and start his new projects. And this is what has been done even at the local level. You will see that a member of county assembly comes into office and dismisses all the projects that were begun by his predecessor. And these projects go into, you know, shambles and, you know, shady and looking dirty just because they think if they complete these projects, they're not going to be able to get the credit. A member of parliament will come and look at a beautiful library that was begun by a predecessor and totally divorce himself from that project and go begin something else elsewhere. Maybe start buying buses because that is what appeals to the people. When a critical thinker will get to establish that the laboratory that was done by the predecessor, however much it was not properly completed, they needed to complete it because they're using the funds from the public coffers to do it. So there's nothing wrong with what William Ruto is doing. If the Colonel Marwa Road, which I have used, is not complete, like it is not complete yet, there's still diversions all over. If the president goes there to maybe evaluate and do something about it, he's the president of the Republic of Kenya. You know, if he goes there to check the status of water projects, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What we need to encourage is that the projects that are already underway need to be completed, and no leader should come in place and dismiss the projects of their predecessor in pursuit of political capital. Okay. And that all our leaders need to understand that all these monies that are being used to implement projects are coming from public coffers. They are not monies from Uhuru's pockets, as Joe would want us to believe, that Uhuru did a project where Uhuru see what. Well, that's nonsense. I mean, this is money from public coffers that even President William Ruto would cease to be president today. Somebody who come in right now, we expect them to take over these projects and do them accordingly. Okay. But also I would want to look at
I'll have to pause you there because I'm looking at advice and he's sending me signals that he's quite impatient to jump in.
Right, allow
advice, Mundalo?
Okay. Thank you, Oli, for hearing our cry. This side of the table has been completely disenfranchised. I think it's good when ASCOM keeps coming out. So I think on this subject, I would want to say that we have to have this understanding that governments are work in progress. And governments are a continuous process. You cannot be able to say that there is this, when this government does this, it stops there. When the other person comes in, we stop. You see, this is the problem that counties are suffering. Yeah. I know of counties, Olive, where one governor built the structure of the hospital. Yeah. And the other governor came and did not equip the hospital. The reason is, when you equip the hospital, it will be looked as though it is the other person who has done. Yeah. So you have a whole structure where millions of taxpayers' money has been spent, but it's not functional, just because somebody wants to play into the politics. And I think I'm happy that the president has not gone that direction. Anything that was started by any government, even if it was the Kibaki government, that is not complete, when you are in the office of the president, it is your duty to ensure that that is able to come to completion and that it can be able to benefit the people. So it's not about saying that this was done by whoever and this was done by whoever. Yeah. All these things are done by taxpayers' money, and they are done by governments. The only thing that changes is the leader of that government. So the politicization of it and making it look like the president is not supposed to touch anything. Soon we'll start saying the president should not even live in State House because the other president lived there. So I think that is just excess politicizing of issues, and we must run away from making governments about personalities. Governments are not about personalities, they're about the functions. And in the president's trip in Mount Kenya, there will always be a very thin line between politics and governance. Yeah. Because remember, the president comes into office through a political process. Mm-hmm. And one of the mistakes we did as the Jubilee administration, the last regime, is to run away squarely from the politics of everything. And I think that is the mistake President William Ruto is not trying to do. Because in political leadership, you must do and tell the people that you have done and repeat that you have actually done it until they are able to understand what you are doing. Otherwise, when you sit at State House, you might be doing a lot, but if the people are not understanding what you're doing, you must constantly engage the people. I liked the clip where the president was talking to some people on the street. Mm-hmm. I think there were some milk farmers. And you can be able to see how it is a very personalized conversation. And you can be able to feel like the president is really understanding what is exactly on the ground. Because sometimes when you sit at the top of the cadre, you might be thinking you're doing so much, but the results on the trickle down is extremely the other end. So I think to that effect, it was so good. And I think that if that can also be able to be done in all parts of the country, so the president can be able to know what we are discussing in State House, is it really going down to the people? And on the political front, in my view, I think it was one of the biggest wins for the deputy president, because we could clearly see that the deputy president was in charge of that trip. Oh, yeah. You could clearly see that he is reassuring his people that I told you to vote this way, and I'm following up to ensure that our promises have come to fruition. I'm following up to ensure that what we agreed comes to be. I'm following up to ensure that what he calls our 43% of the vote is able to pay off. And as bad as it may want to sound and how someone might want to paint it in bad light, that is the reality of the politics. Okay. That at the end of the day, when people are able to go a certain direction, they expect their leaders, and every leader from whatever the place must be able to follow up and ensure that they're able to get their share of what we famously call the national cake. So I think it was a very big political win for the deputy president because he was purely in charge of this trip. You could even be able to see that even the media communication and the interview on Inoro, is it Inoro FM? Yeah, Inoro TV. You could clearly see that this was really a very well choreographed scheme to ensure that the communication to Mount Kenya is effective. And I think to that extent, they did a good job.
Do you agree, Kirinya? I must protect Mheshimiwa. Yeah.
I
will come back, Joseph. After him, I will come back. I will come to andika usisahau.
Just 1 minute.
Andika tu hapo kwa notebook usisahau. Kirinya.
Yes.
Was he successful? Because in advice's assessment, the president, to that effect, he said the last statement advice said is to that effect he was successful. So you know, his tour came at a time when there was a disgruntlement over the Finance Act, you know, and this turnover tax that was seen would impact disproportionately watu wa biashara. Watu wa biashara being mainly tunaonanga watu wa tunasemanga ni watu wa Central, ni watu wa biashara. Then of course there was the agreement to sit down with the second attempt at the second concession to sit down. Should I call it a concession or second round of talks with Azimio? So there were questions around, okay, so what does that mean for our people? Did the president, in your view, address those issues, effectively quell any uprising?
Well, first of all, I'm an advocate of completion of projects, but I'm not an advocate of, you know, coming to repaint a project that was already completed and in use and make it look like now I am the guy who has done this, and I am the guy now who has, you know, come in your hour of need. So
can I speak as a just no, I'm not Olive Barrow's TV. I'm just as an ordinary Kenyan.
Yes.
Who cares? I don't care. You can repaint it 3 million as long as I am benefiting.
No,
I don't care who launched it. It does not matter to me.
Remember, Oliver, you're repainting this using taxpayers' money. So that's where the problem is. And you're coming to, you know, relaunch and recommission using taxpayers' money. So that's where the problem is. One thing I think our head of state should have been is being magnanimous enough, you know, to tell people I'm still, you know, the plans for Mount Kenya region are still, you know, underway. You understand? Instead of now using you know, taxpayers' money to go and, you know, like repaint the Odaya, you know, water project and the hospital, and then make it look like it is during this 1 year in office that he did all this. But I must give it to him. He succeeded in, you know, making the Mount Kenya people, you know, see things the way him and the deputy president want them, you know, to want them seen. Remember, I don't know whether it is Machiavelli who said in politics, perception matters more than the reality. True. And, you know, for President William Samoei Ruto, perception matters more than the reality. So it is they succeeded in creating a perception that you see, you guys, Mount Kenya people, we are really working extremely hard for you. That is why we've brought this and this and this and this. Remember, even in Meru County, President, like a month ago, he came to this sub-county, Bori constituency. And then he actually opened a road that we have been using for the last 7 months now. It is a road that was done by the previous regime, Roire to Isiolo Road. It is a project that
but had it been launched?
Kitambo.
It had been launched?
Yes, Kitambo. We've been using that road for like almost 1 year and some months now. But now he came and, you know, he made it look like this is a whole new project. But you know, there's a difference. So my 2 cents about this is, one, he succeeded to the extent of creating a perception that you guys, I'm still working for you, and these are the goodies I've brought you. Even though these goodies were brought to you long time ago, he wants to make it look like he's the one who has now newly brought the goodies. And then lastly on this, I think Mount Kenya people should not be excited by the mere fact that, you know, the head of state keeps visiting us. the deputy president keeps visiting us. When the president visits other regions, we see him do new projects, new things every single day. But when he comes to Mount Kenya region, it is about exciting the crowds, exciting the people by way of telling them, for example, we know Mount Kenya, have a boogeyman by the name Raila Odinga. So this boogeyman, whenever they come to Mount Kenya and they tell you, we are taking this boogeyman to Bondo, we will make sure that there will be no, handshake. But when it goes to Nyanza and Western, the message is different. The message is, my brother Raila Odinga, we want him to come sit down with us so that we can work for this country. But when he comes to Mount Kenya, because he knows very well that Mount Kenya people, for example, a huge section of the population don't like, the boogeyman, this person by the name Raila Odinga. So that is the narrative they will sell. So I think when the president comes to Mount Kenya, for example, he should make, truth of his promises. Like he came to Meru several months ago. He came to Meru several months ago. He made promises of about 8, dams. None has started up to this hour. So instead of doing the project that he promised us, now he comes with rhetorics of no handshakes and stuff like that. So,
Oliver,
Joseph,
in a minute,
Joseph,
I wanted to answer these people.
Joe is worked up because...
No, you gave me a little time, eh?
No, yeah, I'm coming to you, Joseph. I'm coming.
Okay.
Sasa, you'll have your time.
Okay.
My question is, severally on this panel, you have adequately represented your constituents. You have raised questions on coffee.
Yes.
The president, when he sat down for this interview you're mentioning, Kiririmbi, I think is how it was phrased on the State House YouTube channel, he said, he was questioned about, what fertilizer and all of that. Milk, akasema, they're working on processing plants. He talked about what, 600 refrigerators or something. I think it's the refrigerators, right?
Coolers,
yes. And he also talked about what was drying, basically aliongelea mambo ya wakulima. Do you not feel like the president did a good thing?
Olive, first I want to say that leadership should be genuine and not inflated. If you look at the paragons of morality, morality is an important banner in good governance and ethics. And having said that, we must foster the truth as leaders, the good and the beautiful, and stop the politics of deceit. Olive, I can't go around saying for the last 2 years, you have done nothing. And when you are no longer there, I just go around using your report so that I can condemn myself to the people. That's what William Samoei Ruto did. For 2 years, they went around Mount Kenya telling people Uhuru did nothing, Uhuru did nothing, Uhuru did nothing. But when Uhuru is out of office, 1 month, he's launching all the projects that were done by President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, where he was on top of the car campaigning. We must foster ethics, virtuous leadership. We must stop deceit that is happening with this government. Having said that, Oliver, I want to say that there's nothing they are doing to Mount Kenya. In fact, right now, which promise can President William Samoei Ruto tell people and people believe? We have been having these promises since he took office. You can be able to tell from promise 1 to 100 promise. He promises that, after that, he promises this, he promises that, he promises that. Tell me one thing that they have implemented. Right now, Hustler Fund, where is it? How was it implemented? Can you be able even to gauge what happened to the Hustler Fund? That's the only thing maybe they have implemented. And I want to say this, Olive, if you look at our region, we didn't tell William Ruto to come and improve our coffee or tea or macadamia. We told him if he cannot be able to help us to improve the prices of coffee and macadamia, he should leave it where President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta left them. If you look at places like Kirinyaga, those people nowadays are lining up for relief food in Kirinyaga. Because, yes, Kirinyaga Central, Last week, they were lining up for relief food. That place is where those people, they have the highest prices for their coffees. Last year, their coffee was 130 shillings. Last year, when Uhuru was leaving the office. This year, their coffee is 50 to 60 shillings. What are you doing to those people? It is a case of the biblical Herod, whereby he deprived the people of Tyre and Sidon of the economic activity so that whenever he talks, they feel like it's a God talking. That's what he's doing to Mount Kenya region. Look at our macadamia. Macadamia last year, Olive, last year, you could have gone to a bank and take a loan having macadamia on shamba. But now macadamia are being hawked in FINROs. So we are not telling William Samoei to help us. We are telling him, if you cannot be able to help people of Mount Kenya, we are okay with your politics. But let our produce remain where you found them when Uhuru was in office. Don't deprive our people of their economic activity. And then the whole time you are doing politics in Mount Kenya, relaunching the projects that are already in existence. If you go to other places like Nyanza, he was there. He did not relaunch the projects that were there. He initiated new projects. But in Mount Kenya region, he's taking the advantage of the economic situation in Mount Kenya, because the economic situation in Mount Kenya is changing very fast. These were people who used to depend on themselves, their economic activity. These are people now, the economic situation has changed. They're lining up for handouts. So he comes up with handouts, 500 shillings, 1,000 shillings, and the people line up across the road to be given that amount of money. I've told you, have all the notices here, that prior to his visit, everybody who was attending his meeting was given 1,000 shillings. And it's sad that Kenyans in this hardship, they are paying their taxes only to be used for campaign.
But shida iko wapi?
Shida iko hapa.
Shida kuambia watu thanks kwa kuja.
No, shida iko hapa.
Transport ndo hii.
No, shida iko hapa. Shida iko hapa. You had a manifesto where you are campaigning. You are in office now. Instead of implementing that manifesto, you are telling people how you are planning to implement manifesto. That is the problem. As a president, and that's the reason I want to finish by saying that, show me one road that William Samoei Ruto in his that year political career he has ever built. Show me one market that he has ever built. Show me one hospital that he has ever built. What President William Samoei Ruto does, anytime he comes into office, he prepares for the next election. That's what he's doing in Mount Kenya.
But you know, Joseph, I feel like you have been a little bit unfair. He came in, he said he will appoint judges. He appointed the ones who refused to appoint. He said he will give judiciary more money. He said polisi watafanywa independent, watapewa budget yao, pesa zao. Okay, ask on Kamili.
It's very unfortunate, and sorry to use this, but I think the way in which Joe and his friends who are against William Ruto in Mount Kenya are looking at the administration of William Ruto. They are not giving the approach William Ruto is giving Mount Kenya and the entire country the deep insight it's supposed to be given. Look at it this way. For them, it's just about quick fix, random decisions. We want macadamia at 100 bob. I mean, things can...
Why were they Olive last year?
This way.
Like you know, Ascon gave you time,
and even the irony is, the Uhuru Kenyatta that Joe is praising here today was dismissed by the same people in Mount Kenya for the same failures he's mentioning that William Ruto is facing today. So I'm wondering which Uhuru Kenyatta is this that did so much to Mount Kenya people and they were praising then that now they're dismissing William Ruto. My concern here is this. A country cannot be governed as though you're governing some small cattle dip somewhere where you make decisions on which cow is supposed to get in first and which one is supposed to get in later. It is important that we look at the approach William Ruto and the scientific manner in which it is being executed.
Hey, scientific engineer.
It is actually scientific in the sense that there are decisions that could have been made on policy questions that then would change things immediately. The question of the Hustler Fund, the question of the judges, the question of the SGR, the question of what do you call this? I don't know what to call it, but what William Ruto did in Mount Kenya the other day. These are things that can be done on policy decisions. You sit down and decide we're going to move SGR from Naivasha back to Mombasa, and that will change things. But we are not going to solve the cost of living by giving people handouts in the manner in which Joe and his friends are accustomed and they believe should be done. Ruto is saying we need to go back to where the root cause of this problem is. It might take time. Like right now, we are going to celebrate the bumper harvest and how there's maize all over. If you go to my village now, people are demanding that we don't sell our produce to other people because it is too much. right? That is how to solve such problems. You don't solve such problems by waking up and telling people, I'm going to reduce the cost of unga by 100 shillings. That is a scientific approach to solving issues. We are talking about education in this country. Was William Ruto supposed to wake up and dismiss CBC as the entire country was demanding? No. He needed to have a committee of experts to look at how to solve this problem. The committee has come up with ideas and which are progressive enough. And these are people who are part and parcel, stakeholders in this segment of our economy. And they've decided on the manner in which they're supposed to be executed. And it's being done properly. We are talking about the university funding model. This is something that has been subject to real thinking by real stakeholders. You know, this is how to change a country. You don't change a country by waking up and saying that I'm going to give free education to everybody, as Joe and his friends would demand. I mean, it is popular, it is nice, it is beautiful, it is what the people want to hear. But as a leader, is that the right thing to do? We have to allow Ruto. It is just 8 months, actually 1 year since we did the election. It was 9th of August when I almost cried on this studio. Oh. So it is exactly 1 year. We have to give Ruto time. Yeah? For me, I'll put him on a weighing scale in the next 1 year. 2 years, if it still, things are not shaping up, I think the foundation would have not been formed properly as it had been anticipated.
Okay. At that point, let me allow advice, last word. La tufungie sasa show.
Is it 8 already?
I think we, one thing I would want to really try and advise my brother Joe is, you know, me, Joe and Ascon were very vocal in the Azimio campaign. I think the difference between most of us is that some of us are still harboring a lot of bitterness from losing election, and it's painful to lose election. But let us not be able to now do that bitter exchange in the way we see everything. Because when you come on panel and say that Ruto has done nothing, you know, now that is now bitterness, is now not critique. That is now just being very bitter, that somebody beat you in the election. Because when you look at it, even the number of cabinet secretaries, Mount Kenya holds a sizable chunk, even in the cabinet secretaries. We look at PSs, Mount Kenya holds a sizable chunk. And in the whole of this country, the place that the president has gone on what is called a development tour for 5 days, it has been no other place. It has been the Mount Kenya region. So we have people who have perfected the art of playing victim so that they benefit the most. When you look at the coffee that he's talking about, this administration has been so particular with it that it has been particularly given to the deputy president to ensure that that matter is handled. Particularly, it has been given that level of special attention. And then you come on panel to say that this administration has done totally nothing. I think to that extent, we will not be being very fair to administration. Let us try to judge the administration a little bit fairly and not extremely with a lot of bitterness. Yes, we would have been government, would we have won election, but we are not today. So the best we can be able to do is see how we can be able to critique and move this government to deliver. President Uhuru Kenyatta, that my brother Joe talks about, was extremely criticized towards the last election, and the same people said he had done totally nothing. When in the former administration, President Uhuru Kenyatta built the highest number of kilometers of road in central Kenya since independence. It had never happened since independence. But someone said we don't eat roads, someone said another thing, just because it was flavor for the politics of the time. So let us not carry what is just political flavor into the reality of conversations. The truth is that there has been big priority on the issues of Mount Kenya with this administration. It is the only region that the president, and you saw even the deputy president when he spoke to it, he actually said in his words that you have given us everything we asked for and added more that we did not ask for. That was in the speech of the deputy president, who is now the highest ranking leader of the Mount Kenya region. So that is the reality as it is, and not just saying that coffee should be moved to is it 100 or what he said, 130 shillings.
Okay,
no,
guys.
Why was coffee last time they took office?
It
was 120.
I have to end the conversation there, but in terms, so you know, next time we'll dissect. You know, is it about the numbers? Why is Mount Kenya, Central Kenya, so sought after by the political class? Because we haven't even touched on Azimio. Azimio. You know, with the repositioning of Peter Munya, is it Mount Kenya East? type thing,
no,
you know?
they're
All right,
close.
guys, next time
maybe
pia
close.
tutaangalia hii. Tumemaliza.
No,
Tusha close. Tusha close.
No, shout out to somebody here.
Tusha close. Tusha close. No, Mahesh, tushafunga. Although tena advice tumengoja hiyo quote ya last time au kudurusha. Ile alisema Machiavelli, nikaona kidogo umekumbuka. Anyway, Raila next time Raila atafutiwa.
There's something very important here.
Next time tutadiscuss it.
You don't want my
Olive
quotes?
Barrows, Joseph Chege,
Yes, I don't want my
Ascon Kamili, Advice Mundalo, Kirinya Mwenda. Thank you very much. Have yourself a good morning.